What should a CFO prioritize when stepping into a business already under pressure?
Imagine this. From day one, debt pressure, public scrutiny, leadership change, and the fallout from a merger that hasn't quite gone to plan.
Today's guest stepped into exactly this situation. Niels Boon joined Cint, a Stockholm-Nasdaq listed tech company, at a time of real instability.
He was the 6th CFO in 4 years. 6 months later, the CEO who hired him was gone. Very quickly, the role stopped being about spreadsheets and became about stability and trust.
In this episode, we talk about what it takes to rebuild trust and move the needle as a new CFO with investors, the board, and your own team.
This is the Growth-Minded CFO. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Growth-Minded CFO. I can't believe, Lauren, that this is the first episode of 2026 already.
I know, yeah, the first one we're recording in 2026. New year, and we have so many cool guests lined up, and especially today, we have a great guest lined up. I'm so psyched to get going this year.
That's going to be so cool. I'm sorry that we're not in studio today. This is the first, we're starting the year totally remote, but we were traveling a lot these days. And I think our guest was traveling as well today.
That's right.
Niels, welcome to the show. We're very happy to have Niels Boon with us today on the show, coming from company Cint. Niels, do you want to introduce yourself maybe and we can get going?
Yes, thanks a lot for having me. And indeed, I was traveling until like 15 minutes ago, but that doesn't matter.
So glad you could make it.
Yeah, exactly. It all worked out. So I'm based out of the Netherlands, the CFO of a company called Cint. It's Stockholm-based, Nasdaq-listed tech company in market research industry. It's the world's largest survey exchange. I've been CFO several European-based tech companies before, always working internationally, also with US components, also current companies like 2/3 US in terms of revenues and also a lot of employees we have over there. So it's really global. We also have Asia and a couple of countries in Europe.
I think your career and kind of how you've taken different steps from different positions is super interesting about your background. So for just a moment, it would be great to just hear a little bit about the trajectory of how you came to be a CFO and especially kind of what you learned from each little step that really led to where you are today.
That's a good one. It's a very deep question as well.
No pressure.
I think already when I was young, I started investing privately when I was 11 or something, when there was no internet yet, right? So I was doing I had to call on the phone and say, I want to buy 2 shares of a company for like €5. There was no euro yet. And then they would say, it's confirmed or not. So I was always interested in the topic. Yeah, that's a bit weird maybe, but... So I knew that later when I was in school, I want to do something with finance, and I didn't really know what exactly, but something with stock exchanges and companies and valuation. I always thought that was interesting. But then I started my career at McKinsey actually, so consulting, strategy consulting, but within that I was the corporate finance expert, meaning I did a lot of private equity work, due diligence for private equity, strategic due diligence, valuation work, modeling, and then all kinds of industries within Europe. So I was based out of Amsterdam, but I think in 5 years I did 2 projects in Amsterdam or something. So I was always anywhere else, in a basement typically. It's not allowed anymore these days, but back then that was the dream job. And then I started for the first time working in tech for a company called Zalando. It's now big and famous, I think the biggest tech IPO in Europe, at least for the last 20 years or something. It's now a DAX company as well. When I went there, no one knew it. I also never heard about it, but there were some ex-McKinsey guys also there. They said, we want someone with your profile. You should come to Berlin, and then this is going to grow, and it's internet and everything. Okay. They sell shoes online. I don't know what it is, but I started there and I really liked it. So that's how I stepped into the tech world. And I've been there ever since. So I moved to Germany back then from Amsterdam to Berlin. Lived there for 10 years, worked at different tech companies, like I said. Then I moved back to the Netherlands 4 years ago, but still worked in Berlin first, now in Sweden. So I basically work anywhere in Europe from here. I live close to the airport. That's the trick.
Ha, you must.
And yeah, exactly. And then the first time CFO, I think that was the really interesting step, because then you've never done it, right? From a career perspective. So I was consultant before with McKinsey. Then at Solano, I was working for the CFO. So one below CFO, but still being kind of in-house consultant, which means like you have amazing looking slides and recommendations and theory, but then in practice it's always different, right? So I learned that there, like how to actually get people behind it, how to execute it, how do numbers get made to begin with. I think that's really interesting topic as well, because if you're from the outside, consultant or investor, you look at KPIs, but no one is truly questioning where exactly does it come from, who makes them, and if you drill down, it might be an intern copy-pasting some numbers into a sheet, right? And then you see some trends that might not be there or the other way around. So yeah, that was really interesting to learn. It was growing really fast back then, a lot of fundraising. So I learned that as well from the inside.
Yeah.
And then I became CFO of a small company called Itembase. It was big data, now you would call it AI. Back then it was big data, it was in 2014. And I met them at some event. There were a lot of tech events happening. And then I thought, oh, nice guys. Maybe I'll help them in the weekend or something, because it's like if I could look at some things in the pitch deck. And then I met the investors and the board, and then they said, do you want to be CFO here? And I thought, CFO, but I don't know, I've never done that, right? So why would you ask me? Then I thought, yeah, why not actually? I'm just going to try it. And then like I always do the career steps based on learning. So I thought if I take 12 months from here, I can keep the same job. It's quite comfortable. I got paid well. I could just keep on doing it. I learn a bit more, maybe not, but I would just do more of the same, right? Or I jump into this black hole. I have no idea what it means to be CFO of a company. They were pre-revenues, so CFO without revenues. I don't know how that looks on my CV, but I thought I'd just do it. Let's say you do it for 12 months, at least you learn something, right? And they just wanted to move to the US as well. So it was Berlin-based, but I had to set up a holding in the US and then do fundraising in Silicon Valley. So I thought, okay, that's so cool, I need to do that. So yeah, that's what I did. And then since then I've been CFO basically ever since. Also COO, that's quickly happening in the tech startup world. Now at Cint, it's a publicly listed company, so I think that's also really nice to experience. Doing it for about 2 years now, and yeah, that's yet another learning. So again, a bit long answer maybe to your question, but every step I just looked at what can I learn, and will I learn more from staying, or will I learn more from doing something else?
I love that soundbite of how to decide kind of where to go next as what can I learn as your guiding light.
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, and it's also because I really like it. Otherwise, I get bored too quickly. That's maybe a bit of a problem of myself, but this is what I was taught at McKinsey as well. You always had to develop yourself. They have the famous up or out culture, or I don't know how you call it, promotion system, right? And you always need to learn and develop and show that you learned something. Like every 6 months, you need to prove that you did something completely new. And so also there I was corporate finance expert, and then I said, you always do corporate finance. Now go there and do a sustainability project somewhere without any numbers and no Excel, and just go there. And then like, okay. And then you just do it, right? And then in hindsight, it's actually quite nice.
Niels, I love what you just said around like all the career progression. And this is a question that we've been touching upon like a lot of time on the podcast, from, career move, how you move from one position to another. And what I like about your moves was just like how bold they were, like you move from different positions up. Would you say a common question we have is people are not coming from a finance background and ending up being CFOs. How do you think your skills of being a consultant have helped you becoming a better CFO, and maybe not? I just suppose that it's only out of curiosity, or how is it helping you today?
It's funny, I was actually last night literally talking about this with some people. I think nowadays it's much easier to be CFO without knowing anything about finance, maybe even. I think there are some bigger famous people. They come from more like a technical background or something else, right? And it is of course all more data driven and less accounting driven. So you don't necessarily have to have a finance background. Of course, training helps, right? So it's a bit in the middle, but I don't have an accounting degree myself. So that's possible to do as long as you then have, of course, the right team so that you can, that you know what your weaknesses are or black spots or whatever you want to call it. So I know I shouldn't be responsible for IFRS conversion and making sure that the audit happens, right? So we always team up. I always have like a good right hand VP finance or whatever the title is to make sure that everything runs there. While at the same time, you need to be credible enough to talk with the auditors and also to know what you're talking about, right? And that should be more than just ChatGPT nowadays. You need to really know. And that comes with experience as well. But I also had zero experience with it when I joined. And then you learn it kind of the hard way. You run into issues with audits or with investors or with some other things around financials. And then as long as you pick up why that is an issue, how you solved it as a team, or how someone else forced you to solve it, for that matter, doesn't matter. As long as you pick up and keep on learning, then at some point you've seen so much that you can credibly be a CFO, even of a listed company like myself right now. And I think that can happen more and more in the future with non-financial backgrounds as well.
I really think this is an interesting topic for a lot of CFOs these days, because not only do you not come from an accounting background, which I think is becoming more common. I agree. I also don't come from an accounting background. I also come from a consulting background. And so a different background resonates. But you're also a specialist in this global expansion and an issue that often requires a lot of compliance thinking, a lot of strategy around doing things in a proper way according to different local laws and this sort of thing. I wonder, zooming in on your most recent company experience in a public realm with kind of international considerations, how did you set up your systems for getting yourself smart on the laws and the compliance issues that you needed to be, having the right people in place to kind of be your backstop there? What did you do? Like, walk us through kind of how you put it together and got to a place where you can operate optimally and feel really confident.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And we are now in 14 countries with entities, but we work in 130 countries, so kind of everywhere. And even if you don't have an entity, you still need to comply potentially with some laws that you don't know about, right? In some countries, you might even not even know that you are active somewhere. I experienced that as well. I remember I had to fill out for a bank like some compliance survey. Do you do business with these countries? And usually you just cross no. I never heard of those countries, right? And then the bank sends back, but you had so many transactions in these countries. Like, oh, did I? Okay, I didn't know. Turns out you have like a supplier or someone outsourced who like sent one invoice there or something. Yeah, so it's impossible sometimes to know it yourself, right? So that's maybe part of the answer. You need like a system indeed, with local experts and not just in-house, because that's usually not worth it or too expensive, right? So we always have like local advisors as well. It could be like accountants or tax advisors or other ones, depending on your business model. But then usually it's also, I would say, a little bit common sense. And the more you see, the more the countries look like each other. And you typically take the most strict countries. So for example, GDPR in Europe is like one big thing, right? So if you just follow the German version of that, you probably don't have to worry about Brazil, just picking a country. Of course, you need to double check still that you don't miss like some local thing that you have to do there. The other thing is that you cannot apply the exact same rules for everyone everywhere. For example, with payroll or benefits, or that's always discussion. Every company I was at, that is always like, oh, in that country they have this, and in that country they don't have that, and that person gets more for the same role. It's not the same role. The role might be the same, but he lives there. Do you want to live there? No, exactly. So if you move there, you get the same, right? So, so you always need to be central and global with, I think, more the guidelines, but then you need to locally adapt and make sure that it makes sense also locally. So with compliance, it's the same. Luckily, when I came, the company was already listed, so a lot of groundwork was already done, right? I didn't have to go in from scratch and uncover all kinds of things. However, a lot could be improved. That's more like on the accounting side and making sure that we are like faster with everything, that we have the data faster and that we can also more quickly show that we are compliant, for example, towards auditors, etc. Right? So you might be compliant, but if it takes 2 months to prove it, that also doesn't feel so comfortable. So we took a lot of steps in general to become faster with data and systems, ERP systems, for example. We have a lot of AI tools implemented now as well. A lot of things go automatically. That just improves the quality and the speed, and then you get time to actually think about the outliers more instead of just running behind the facts in general for a living.
That's super insightful. Thank you so much, Niels, for that. I'd like to maybe zoom in a little bit about one thing that was the core things we wanted to discuss today during this episode, and that's related to your current experience at Cint. And it seems that you joined Cint at a time of a lot of changes, pressure, and I would like you to just walk us through a little bit of the context when you arrived at Cint, but also tell us what was the process for you when you joined the company to understand what was expected from you and how you took it from there?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe to start out with, when I joined, I was the sixth CFO in 4 years to join. So probably all the listeners think now that I'm crazy, right? And why would you take
Good
it
sign.
to begin with?
Green flag for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever the story is, that doesn't sound good, right? And you could also look at the share price that has come down. So the story was that there was an IPO of Cint, a Swedish company, in 21, and then they bought their American competitor called Louisy at the end of 21 for more than $1 billion with a B in USD. So it was huge compared to today. Then they merged, was kind of a merger of equals more in terms of size. However, the companies were not really integrated. They were kept separate. And there were a couple of more smaller acquisitions as well, also kept separate, and everything was just living their own legacy life. But there was a lot of pressure to perform because the guidance given to the market was not the rule of 40. You have heard of the rule of 40, of course, but it was the rule of 50 after the acquisition. So they said it was rule of 40 with the IPO, but now we are going to be together. We're going to be rule of 50. So 25% growth with 25% EBITDA, and it's starting next week, and it's only going to go up. And then at the same time, that was at the height of the market, right? At the end of 21, then beginning of 22, interest rates went up and the world turned and GDP was not growing so fast anymore, and the world was not as fun anymore. So that was difficult, and I joined in 24. CEO was changed twice in those 2 years already, and then the CEO who hired me was assembling a new team. He did the integration of 2 big companies before, so he was hired to also do the integration here. So he was looking for a CFO as well that would do it together with him, basically, and together with the full team, of course. So that's when I was joining. It was very transparent that it was not going to be an easy ride, so nothing was hidden or something. It was like, okay, we're in a tough spot. Revenues were declining for 3 years in a row or something already. The companies are not integrated. There was a big loan that financed the acquisition, $120 million, that had to be refinanced during the first year right away as well, because it was due at the end of the year. It was 120 million. There was 25 million on the account roughly, so you cannot pay 120 with 25, right? That's difficult if you're not generating any cash, so that's impossible. So I knew it was going to be tough. There was also accounts receivable problem. They were just going up, even though revenues were going down. So that's also not the best indicator, of course. So then I said, that sounds great, let's do it. This is how I came in. And then 6 months after I joined, the CEO was replaced. There was another CEO coming in. So I just thought, okay, I just need to focus on my job, fix whatever I can fix on the finance side. And the world around might keep on changing all the time, but I will just focus on what needs to happen. which was like fixing those things I just said, refinancing the loan, and also we did a rights issue, like a capital raise for a public company called a rights issue to get extra cash in. Then we could refinance, pay back the loan a little bit, and become healthier as a company while fixing all the operational stuff with systems and accounts receivables. And at the same time, the team was going through a rough spot, right? So they all said when I joined, the finance team is the worst team ever. You need to replace all your direct reports when you join. That was like the instructions when I came in. Now that I think about it, I wonder why I took it actually. But I wanted to learn this again. So I wanted to be like public company CFO. I thought this is a nice opportunity for me to do that. And also I thought it's already so low, I can probably not make it much worse. So like with a bit of luck, I can make it better.
That's a good way. That's a good way of looking at it, Niels.
Exactly. It's like joining like a soccer club that's playing last in the league or something. And then you think, okay, at least it's not because of me that they're last, right?
Yeah. You just mentioned, just to follow up on my question, you just mentioned like doing what needs to be done at that point in time when, especially if your CEO is changing, there's a lot of different moments.
Yeah.
How do you set the priorities and who do you align with at that time? Is it just you or do you take it from someone else?
Yeah, no, that's, of course, a lot with the board as well. Board is always really important with the CEO, number one, CEO, number two. But it was quite clear that because we had to refinance and the lenders, they were not so happy with our performance from the years before, of course. So the loan was extended already, I think 3-4 times before I picked it up. And then I also had to extend it again. So they were not happy, of course, at all. So it was clear that we just need to get the company in shape, financially speaking. So it has to be cash generation and not losing cash anymore to start with. We need to get the accounts receivable under control. Ideally, we also grow top line, etc. But that's difficult to change overnight, and also not directly the CFO's remit, of course. So all the other things I could do, we did focus on the cost. So we had some cost-saving programs as well. We did everything in parallel, while at the same time I had to keep the team motivated, right? So a lot of people left already because of the mergers. There were two cultures and that didn't really fit. You have American people, Swedish people, completely different cultures and everything. So lots of people left before I joined, but also during when I joined as well, because it was just too much pressure and at the same time cost pressure. So that means ideally we do less people in the team and not more, and then you need to do extra work and you need to clean up the past still because we were behind with so many things while you migrate systems and all kinds of things, right? So yeah, the good thing is to then take a step back and see like in what order do we need to do it, because you could point at problems easily and you just walk in and you hear it within 5 minutes, but then where do you start? And yeah, you could see that there were a couple of structural things that needed to change before we could think about like the nice optical changes that you could do at the end. So then I started there, and it was tough to sell because when you're not a finance person or legal or something like that, you're like a commercial person, for example, or in the board, then you're like, okay, just fix this thing. But then you first need to do the structural work. So for example, we did the legal entity rationalization, as we called it. We had every country double or sometimes quadruple in terms of legal entities because of M&A. So we had 4 US entities, 4 German ones, 4 in the UK, and then 2 in everywhere in the rest in the world. So in the end, we went from, it's crazy, and the complexity and invoicing mess. And this then led to accounts receivable problems, and I can talk for hours about it. But if you don't tackle that first, you will never get out of it anyway, right? Unless you hire like 100 people extra in your team or something. So we went from 28 entities to 14, but this process alone like took 1.5 years or something, and it already started before I joined, but it had to be finished before you can move on to the next step. And the next step was having one ERP system. So we didn't even have just one system, but several because of the acquisitions. And then it was always, we don't want to move this entity into the new system because we're going to close this entity soon anyway, but if soon takes 2 years, like what do you do in the meantime? So then it all came back to, let's do the entities first. And then every time we close an entity or we merge one and we have a new one, then the new one should move to the new future ERP. So we picked one of the 2 ERP systems, and then every time we could move them until they all sat in one system. And then for the first time, you could see the numbers in one system quickly. And then you can come up with tools and AI and automate things. But before, that wouldn't make any sense to put it in a system that you're going to deprecate anyway, right? So from the outside, people would say, I Googled this AI tool and they can do automatic something for you. So yeah, that's amazing. But we have like 4 ERP systems for 10 entities that we're not using anymore 6 months from now. So we're not going to spend any time on like implementing it there. But that sounds like you don't want to solve it, maybe to some people. So you have to take the time to explain step 1, step 2, and then step 3 comes. That's the fun step. And step 1 and 2 are going to take 1.5 years. Are you with me for the ride? And then people know you're going somewhere, and then they see, we closed 1 entity, that's great. And then next quarter, we're going to do these 3 in one go. And then it works. So you see that you're moving to the end goal. But it was a lot of, you need to get kind of that they think it's credible what you're saying, right? And you need to be acknowledging that there are problems to begin with, both to investors, to the lenders from the banks, but also internally to the teams. And say like, these are the steps that I think are the ones that we need to take to solve it, even though there's maybe not a one-on-one link that's obvious. So that was, I think, the hard part. And also in between, then people are like, oh, so next quarter it's going to be solved. Like, next quarter, I hope so. We will be closer, but solved is a big word. That depends on like if you get the stamp from the tax authority in Hong Kong or whatever, right? You don't have everything under control, of course. Yeah, so in the end, it all worked out, but yeah, long ride.
I heard a couple of really interesting kind of parts to your story about how this worked at Cint for you. I heard a prioritization issue of like sort of getting all of the information around all the pieces that were not functioning properly, but then the depth to know what things needed to happen before others. So sort of a combination of a lot of information acquisition and then some judgment about how this would be sequenced. And I also heard some great nuance around communication of how to bring stakeholders into that context and help them understand why things might be delayed or happen first or second when they really prioritize them first. So it's really interesting to hear the different skills necessary to handle that situation of coming into an organization in the situation that it was in.
Now for a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
The hypergrowth era is over. This is the age of profitable, sustainable growth. Remember a few years back when securing investment seemed so easy? Today, not so much. Interest rates are up, valuations are down, money is scarce, and it doesn't come cheap. You need to stand on your own 2 feet. A grow-at-all-costs mindset simply isn't viable in the current market. Today's top priority for businesses is to optimize the customer experience to maximize lifetime value and retention. Marketing, sales, and success have seen decades of investment in the art of optimizing the customer experience. It's time for finance to catch up, to push for the same level of sophistication as the other disciplines, to ensure the finance touchpoints become positive elements of the customer experience. It's time for financial relationship management. This is your CRM for customer engagement through the finance process. Finance have long been under pressure to collect invoices, but not able to focus on the customers those invoices represent. With FRM by Upflow, you can bring the B2C customer experience to your B2B finance process. We've taken a completely new, customer-centric approach that'll set your business free. In fact, we are so confident that we underwrite the value of FRM difference through our unique money-back guarantee. If Upflow doesn't deliver at least double its cost in savings, you get all your money back, no questions asked. Faster payments, better customer relationships, and fully realized growth potential. It's time your finance function embraced the change.
Enjoying today's episode? Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and tell a friend about the show. Now back to the episode.
You've transitioned into a fair number of organizations and done this sort of onboarding experience a number of times. So I wonder if before you had this experience at Cint, you had onboarding experiences that helped you build maybe like a playbook or some best practices around what you do when you enter an organization to kind of get what you need to be effective? We've heard from some CFOs in the past who have rules like, I don't take any actions for the first 30 days. I'm just listening because I want to make sure I have full context, and other sort of things that they do. But for you and your situation with these companies, what's special for you? What do you always make sure that you do to be effective?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think it's not just with the CFO jobs, but it also goes back to consulting already, because you always need to get quickly up to speed. You have no clue about the industry, about the company, and those people there, the clients, they used to work there for 20 years, right? And they know everything. So yeah, it's similar here. For me, it is getting to know the people. And with people, I mean board, investors, banks, etc., like the ones that you would think of, but also everyone in the team, down to the lowest level. If there's an intern who joined last week, I would speak with them as well. I try to just meet as much people as possible. Not just formally, because people are sometimes a bit scared and hesitant, like, oh, CFO wants a one-on-one with me in week 1. Am I still around next week? I better say everything is fine, right? So so I break the ice first, and then they see like, okay, he's probably all right. Maybe I can tell him something. I'm still not fired. Okay, I can tell him the other thing as well. But not just with finance either, but with all the teams, right? So I go to commercial team or the tech team and just ask them, what do you expect from me personally and from finance? Like, where are you stuck with us? How can I help you? If you could change one thing, like, what would it be? If you do that for 2 weeks, you already know so much. You just need to listen. Like, all the knowledge is there. The solution might not be there, right? Or they have suggested solutions that might not be the solution, or you need to take the other steps first. But at least you hear like, okay, there's something around this, there's something around that. Some things are maybe a perception as well. So that's also a big thing I learned, in particular at Cint, was a huge perception against anything finance that was there for a couple of years already happening. And then they were like, oh, there's another CFO, he's going to do the same again. And it won't change anyway, right? So that was what everyone was, of course, expecting. So just be humble, listen, ask questions, and again, learn. And I think at some point you see some trends emerge. You say, okay, everyone is talking about this topic, let's go into it. And then you find out that there's probably more to it, right? Otherwise it would have been solved already. So if you're the 6th CFO joining in 4 years, it's not that the other 5 are stupid or something, right? It's just that it didn't work for whatever reason. They also tried, they also worked hard, they're also smart and experienced, etc. So it's probably not possible that you come from the outside with like 3 secret things that you learn somewhere else and you can apply them here and then you're the star of the show. It doesn't work like that. You need to dive in. Why is it not working here yet? And then you end up with the legal entity process or like ERP migration that I didn't plan from the outside. Because typically a board member or a CEO is not going to say like, this is really important that you get rid of legal entities and merge it into one system or something like that. You're not thinking about that, right? But what is important is what you see in the service, and then you need to find out why is that problem so persistent, and go deep and ask a lot of questions. So that's been my modus operandi everywhere, and also I'm just a curious person. So I think if you have natural curiosity, you automatically find out things, and people will tell you things that they maybe didn't plan to say, and then you learn like, oh wait, I connect that remark with that thing, and maybe also you discover some small things that you can fix quickly, and then you get some confidence in yourself, right? Or they get confidence in you. I mean, like you change one small thing, like, okay, apparently this is a big thing for people. I think we can do it in 2 weeks. Then let's do that thing first, right? And then they think like finance is transformed, and then we do the other thing that takes 2 years in the background as well.
Yeah. It's almost, there's like an investigator aspect to it. We'll often hear folks that are having those conversations, building trust and gaining some empathy. But I think you've pointed out this really fascinating lens on it of like using those conversations to investigate, like, what is the crux issue? What are my options here? I love that frame.
Yeah, and they're not always what you expect. And this is if you come in with an open mind, then it could be like anything else than you expected from the outside. So that's always fascinating. It might not be the topic that you want to do. That's another thing, right? But you just have to do it in anyway to be successful.
That's great. And we've asked this question to many guests, Niels, on the show, and we've learned a lot from all of the different guests, but one thing that comes back often and often, and that's what I will remember from what you just said, it's always like this curiosity to not only learning from your craft, but learning from others. What are the issues? And just waiting for this to happen before you start doing anything. What I particularly like with what you said is this idea of like the small win of, to build trust with the team. Because we all know that there's always like this kind of like giant and long processes that you will not be able to shortcut, like changing the ERPs or closing down the subsidiary in Hong Kong. But maybe trying to focus on things that really make a little difference for the other team members or other counterparts that can really build that trust as you join. So that's a great learning and something encouraging everyone to do as well.
As we come to the conclusion of today's episode, I'm realizing that we haven't yet asked you about the results and the outcomes so far of your time with
Exactly.
the best part of the story, which, we have a little bit of inside info on. We've heard they're really exciting. So we want to get you to share that. And also what you've learned from your experience with this company that you'll be taking with you. So please tell us how the story ends.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, of course, there has to be a positive, happy ending to the story, but it's good to mention.
Not all of them have it. Yours does.
It didn't seem like it was starting like this anyway.
It's even worse now. Filing for bankruptcy next week. Indeed, positive, right? So we're still partly on it, but we did so many things. And right now, we refinanced the company last year. So we did the rights issue. We have now a strong balance sheet. We have a loan that is now refinanced. The net debt was too big. We couldn't pay it, and now it's almost gone completely. We're close to zero now, net debt, which is amazing. So I'm updating covenant models for the banks, and I don't even have to do it because we're so far away from the thresholds.
Wow.
That, I can sleep well at night, and before I was refreshing it every 10 minutes almost, and not with good feeling. And also we will be, for the first time, generating cash this year in 25 for the first time in 4 years, even though the top line is still declining, right? So that's really remarkable, I think. So a lot of work was done, and then at the same time I was reconstructing it, but we had no choice. We had to become cash positive, and it worked out. So I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah, that's
and
a
then
huge
what I
win.
learned was the other question,
what did you
right?
learn?
So,
What can
I was
we
thinking
learn from your experience?
A lot of things, of course. The thing that I'm most proud of, and also what I will take away as learning, is how the team evolves during this process. Because we also went down in team size at the company level, including finance team, during all this, right? Well, in fact, we had like triple the work. You could argue, because we're doing like maintenance while keeping the lights on, while reporting quickly, because we're a listed company. There's no discussion. We just have to deliver the numbers with highest quality all the time. And so we went from like a negative ENPS score. We measure always the happiness of the teams of negative 36, which is like super negative, to like plus 38 now. That's really amazing in 1.5 years. And that's because everyone was taken on a journey. So I think the biggest learning is, no matter how bad your starting point is, we talked a bit about my starting point here, that was the same for the whole finance team, of course. As long as you are on a journey and people see the end goal and it becomes credible that you're on a credible path towards that, then you can motivate people, even though you cannot expand the teams. There was not much budget for big racers or something. We didn't pay bonuses for a year, like all those things, right? It's not ideal circumstances, and then to still have everyone be really satisfied with the job, I think that's really amazing. So you need a special type of people for that. Not everyone wants that, right, as a job, but if you can find and spark the right thing with the right people for this process, it's really great to do it together and have that feeling of accomplishment together.
Yeah, and I think it's such a great way to end this episode, because I think it's of course the good people, but it's also, I guess, your success and what you did, right? Because the other CFOs didn't say in the job.
Yeah.
So it's not to underestimate the importance of that and making progress in the right direction. But I think it's what you're saying, and what I take away is just it's a combination of both, right? It's not only the making progress or just only taking care of your team. It's both of them, and I think it's And I think it's great. And I think it's just when I think about like this, the Growth-Minded CFO podcast, it's really like this vision that we have for the CFO. And thank you so much, Niels, for sharing that with us today, because it's when we're thinking about this vision of the old style CFO in the basement, as you started saying in the early days. And just like, it seems like so far away. And that's so inspiring to see those professionals, not even it's beyond finance, and it's like professionals that just keep on growing in their position and build better companies. So that's super inspiring. Thank you so much, Niels, for sharing that today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really nice to talk with you.
No, of course. We're excited. This was the first episode of 2026, and with Lauren, beyond like our normal days and our jobs as CEOs, we're so happy to have great guests like you are on this show. We get a lot of feedback from a lot of listeners, and it's really amazing to keep on doing it. We have more guests coming up. I think the next one will be actually in studio, so we're also excited to
we're back
to
in
be
the
back
studio, between our ferns.
in studio in New York City, in cold New York City. And if you know anyone, Niels, or if you're a listener today know anyone that could be on the show, please don't hesitate. You can now sign up on our website and suggest a guest. And if you like the show, of course, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, share it with your friend.
Share it widely.
Yes, and I think I didn't forget anything, Lauren, this time.
No, you reminded everyone to subscribe, which we typically forget. So I'll just mention it again as a reward. You should subscribe if you like the show. It really helps us find more listeners through all of our channels. So please do so if you haven't yet.
Thank you so much, Niels, again for being with us today. And we'll see you soon on another episode of the Growth-Minded CFO. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Growth-Minded CFO podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and consider telling a friend or colleague about the show. We'd really appreciate your help in spreading the word. The Growth-Minded CFO is brought to you by Upflow. Upflow is a groundbreaking financial relationship management software. Think of it like a CRM for finance. Upflow enables businesses like yours to collect cash faster, build stronger customer relationships, and achieve efficient long-term growth. Join thousands of forward-thinking finance leaders and go from chasing invoices to engaging customers. Find out more at upflow.io.